The morning sun of the Galactic Military Academy was not yellow like Earth's sun. It was pale blue, and it made everything look cold and strange. Lieutenant Park stood at the training yard, watching the other species practice their combat drills. She had been at this academy for 3 years now, and she still felt like an outsider. They were sparring in the center of the yard. They were tall creatures with scales that covered their bodies like armor. Their scales were so hard that most weapons could not hurt them. When they hit each other during practice, the sound was like metal hitting metal. Watch them move with speed that seemed impossible for being so large. On the other side of the yard, there were lifting heavy equipment. Each one stood almost 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and muscles that bulged under their skin. One of them picked up a training shuttle, a vehicle that weighed several tons, and carried it across the yard like it was nothing. The other laughed and cheered. Looked down at her own hands, small, soft, human. She had heard the whispers since her first day at the academy. The aliens did not try to hide their opinions about humans. They spoke openly, as if she could not hear them, or as if her feelings did not matter. "Humans are so fragile," a officer had said once, walking past her in the corridor. "Their skin tears like paper. Their bones break like dry sticks. I do not understand why the coalition allows them in military service." "They are a young species," his companion had replied. "They have only been traveling in space for 200 years. Perhaps they will grow stronger with time. Or perhaps they will die out. The galaxy is not kind to the weak." Had kept walking. She had not responded. She never responded. What could she say? They were not wrong about human bodies. Humans were soft. Humans were breakable. Compared to most species in the coalition, humans were nothing special. But refused to accept that she was nothing special. Every morning she woke up 2 hours before the other cadets. She ran laps around the academy until her lungs burned and her legs shook. She practiced combat techniques until her knuckles bled. She studied alien fighting styles, alien weapons, alien strategies. She learned everything she could learn. The other humans at the academy told her she was trying too hard. "You will hurt yourself," they said. "You cannot compete with them. Just do your job and stay safe." But did not want to just stay safe. She wanted to prove that humans belonged here. Earth had fought hard to join the Galactic Coalition. Millions of humans had dreamed of reaching the stars. She carried those dreams with her, and she would not let them down. Her quarters were small and simple. She had a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at the stars. On her desk she kept a picture of her family back on Earth. Her mother, her father, her younger brother. They had been so proud when she was accepted into the academy. Her mother had cried. Her father had hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. "Make us proud," her brother had said. He was only 15 then, with big dreams of his own. Show them what humans can do. She thought about often. She thought about his bright eyes and his endless questions about space. She thought about how he believed in her, even when she did not believe in herself. That was why she kept fighting. That was why she never gave up. One evening, was eating alone in the dining hall when a young cadet approached her table. He was human, maybe 18 years old, with a nervous face and hair that stuck up in all directions. He was holding his food tray with shaking hands. "Lieutenant Park," he asked, his voice was quiet and unsure, "may I sit with you?" Looked up at him. She recognized him from the new cadet group that had arrived last month. She had seen him struggling during training exercises, always falling behind, always looking scared. "Of course," she said, "sit down." The cadet sat across from her and immediately started apologizing. "I am sorry to bother you. I know you are busy. I do not have many friends here. The other species do not want to talk to me. And the other humans, they have their own groups. I am from the colony and I do not know anyone." "What is your name?" asked. "Cadet." Smiled. He reminded her so much of the same nervous energy, the same desperate need to belong, the same fear of being left behind. Well, she said, now you know someone. From that day on, followed like a lost puppy. He asked her questions about everything, about training, about the academy, about Earth, about the stars. He saluted everyone he met, even the cleaning robots that rolled through the corridors. He was awkward and clumsy and made mistakes constantly. But he tried so hard. Took him under her wing without really meaning to. She helped him with his combat training. She explained things that his instructors did not have time to explain. She told him stories about Earth, about oceans and mountains and cities full of people. "Do you think humans will ever be respected out here?" asked her one night. They were sitting on a balcony, looking at the stars. His voice was full of hope and fear at the same time. Wanted to tell him the truth. She wanted to say that she did not know, that the galaxy was hard and cruel, that humans might always be seen as weak and unimportant. But she looked at his young face, at his bright eyes, and she could not do it. "Give it time," she said, "things will change." She did not know if she believed it, but she knew she had to try to make it true. The academy continued its daily routines, continued her training, continued his struggles, the continued to look down on them, the continued to ignore them. Nothing seemed to change. But something was coming, something that would change everything. In a crashed transport ship on a jungle moon far away, a creature was waking up, a creature of rage and hunger, a creature that had killed hundreds and would kill hundreds more. And fate was about to bring that creature face to face with a small, fragile, unremarkable human who refused to give up. The survival exercise was the biggest event of the academy year. Every cadet talked about it for months before it happened. It was a chance to prove yourself, to show what you had learned, to earn respect from your instructors. Had done the exercise twice before, she knew what to expect. The cadets would be dropped onto Seven, a jungle moon used for training. They would be divided into teams and given objectives. They had to reach extraction points while avoiding simulated threats. Robots would attack them with stun weapons. Traps would be hidden in the jungle. It was difficult, but it was safe. No one ever got seriously hurt. This year was assigned as a patrol officer. Her job was to watch over certain areas and make sure no cadets got lost or injured. It was not an exciting job, but she did not complain. She was just happy to be included. The transport ship carried them to Seven on a cloudy morning. The jungle moon was covered in thick green plants and tall trees that blocked out the sky. The air was heavy and wet. Strange sounds came from deep in the forest, animals calling to each other, insects buzzing, leaves rustling in the wind. Checked her equipment before heading out. She had a standard plasma pistol, a combat knife, a communication device, and a medical kit. Basic supplies, enough for a normal patrol. Her assigned area was Sector 12, near the eastern edge of the training zone. According to her map, it was an empty sector. No objectives, no traps, no simulated threats, just jungle. She was supposed to walk through it twice a day and report anything unusual. The first patrol was quiet. She walked through the thick vegetation, pushing aside huge leaves and stepping over twisted roots. The jungle was alive with color, bright flowers, strange fruits, insects with wings that sparkled like gems. It was beautiful but stayed alert. She had learned long ago that beautiful things could be dangerous. She returned to base camp and filed her report. Nothing unusual. Sector 12 was clear. That night she ate dinner with the other patrol officers. They talked about the cadets, about which ones were doing well and which ones were struggling. Someone mentioned that a team had gotten lost near Sector 8 but found their way back. Someone else complained about the humidity. Normal conversation. Normal evening. Went asleep thinking about. He was on one of the cadet teams, somewhere in the jungle. She hoped he was doing okay. She hoped he was staying safe. The next morning she started her second patrol of Sector 12. The jungle looked the same as before, green and thick and full of strange sounds. But something felt different. Could not explain it. There was a feeling in the air, a tension that had not been there yesterday. She walked deeper into the sector, moving carefully through the trees. The sounds of the jungle seemed quieter now. The insects had stopped buzzing. The animals had stopped calling. Everything was too still, too silent. Then she heard it, a scream. It was a human scream, a young voice full of terror. Ran. She crashed through the jungle, branches scratching her face and arms. She did not care. Someone was in danger. Someone needed help. She had to get there. She had to reach them in time. She burst into a small clearing and stopped. Her heart froze in her chest. Was there. He was on the ground, his back against a fallen tree. His face was white with fear. Blood was spreading beneath him, soaking into the dirt. His weapon lay in pieces nearby, destroyed by something powerful. And standing in front of him was a nightmare. The creature was almost 4 meters tall. Its body was covered in thick plates of bone, with sharp spikes growing from its back and shoulders. Its legs were thick and muscular. Its arms ended in claws that looked like curved swords. It had 4 eyes, all of them red and filled with hunger. Knew what it was. Everyone in the coalition knew about thornbacks. They were one of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. They had destroyed entire colonies. They had killed trained soldiers wearing powered armor. They were monsters. What was one doing here? There was no time to think about that. The thornback was moving toward. Its claws scraped against the ground. Its 4 eyes were locked on the bleeding boy. Hey, shouted. The creature stopped, its head turned toward her. Said, keeping her voice steady, "Can you run?" "My leg," whispered. His voice was shaking, tears were running down his face. "It hit my leg, I cannot move. Lieutenant, please, you have to run, you cannot fight that thing. Please, please run." Looked at the thornback. It was watching her now, deciding if she was a threat. Its muscles were tensed, ready to attack. She could see old scars on its hide, marks from battles it had survived. This creature had killed before, many times. She looked at, young, scared, bleeding. If she ran, he would die. The thornback would tear him apart in seconds. There was no question about that. Pulled out her plasma pistol and fired. The bright bolts of energy hit the creature's chest. They splashed against its bone plates and disappeared. The thornback did not even flinch. It was like throwing pebbles at a mountain. She fired again and again. Nothing. The pistol was useless. The creature made a sound. It might have been a laugh. Threw the pistol aside. It was just extra weight now. She pulled out her combat knife. The blade was sharp, made of good steel. Against this creature it was like a toy. It did not matter. She was not going to run. She said quietly, "When you get the chance, activate your emergency beacon. Do you understand?" "Lieutenant, no." "Do you understand?" "Yes," his voice broke. "Yes, Lieutenant." Stepped forward. She put herself between and the monster. She raised her little knife. Her hands were not shaking. Her heart was pounding, but her hands were steady. The thornback lowered its head. Its 4 red eyes studied her. This small, soft creature was challenging it. This weak human with her tiny weapon was standing in its way. It charged. Did not run. The thornback moved faster than anything had ever seen. One moment it was standing still. The next it was flying toward her like a missile of bone and muscle and rage. Its claws cut through the air with a sound like tearing metal. Threw herself to the side. She felt the wind as those claws passed her face. They missed her by the width of a finger. If she had moved 1 second later, she would have been cut in half. She rolled across the ground and came up running. Her mind was working faster than it had ever worked before. She could not fight this thing directly. She could not hurt it with her knife. She had to be smart. She had to use everything around her. The thornback turned and charged again. Ran toward a cluster of thick vines hanging from the trees. She ducked under them and kept moving. The creature tried to follow, but its spikes caught in the vines. It roared with anger and tore through them, but those few seconds gave time to think. She looked around the clearing. Trees, rocks, fallen logs, dense vegetation. The jungle was her only weapon now. The thornback freed itself and came at her again. This time it swung its massive tail, a weapon covered in bony spikes that could punch through starship metal. Jumped backward, but the tail caught her shoulder. Pain exploded through her body. She felt something crack. She did not stop. She could not stop. Ran behind a large tree. The thornback followed and slammed into the trunk. The tree shook but did not fall. It was old and thick and strong. The creature hit it again and again, its claws tearing chunks of wood away. While it was focused on destroying the tree, circled around, she saw her chance. The creature had soft spots, places where the bone plates did not cover its body completely. The joints, the tissue under its arms, the eyes. She ran at it from behind and drove her knife into the soft flesh under its front leg. The blade sank in about 5 centimeters, then it stopped, then it snapped. The thornback screamed. It spun around with terrible speed. Its arm caught in the chest and sent her flying through the air. She hit another tree with her back. She heard ribs crack. She felt blood fill her mouth. "Get up," she told herself. "Get up, is counting on you, get up." She got up. The creature looked confused. It had hit her hard enough to kill most beings. Why was she still standing? Why was she not dead? Spit blood onto the ground. Half her body was screaming in pain. Her left arm was not working properly. She could feel bones moving in ways bones should not move, but she was still standing. She was still breathing. She was still fighting. The thornback charged again. Waited until the last possible moment, then dove to the side. As the creature passed her, she grabbed one of the spikes on its back. It dragged her along, crashing through bushes and small trees. She held on with her good arm, her body bouncing against the ground. She pulled herself up onto its back. The creature bucked and twisted, trying to throw her off. She wrapped her legs around its neck. With her good hand, she clawed at its eyes. Her fingers found one of those red orbs. She pushed. The thornback screamed like nothing she had ever heard. It threw its body sideways and finally knocked her loose. She flew through the air and landed hard on a pile of rocks. More pain, more blood, more broken things inside her body. But she had heard it. She had really heard it. The creature was shaking its head, blinded in one eye. Blood, thick and black, was running down its face. It was angry now, more angry than before. It wanted to kill her, not just for food anymore, for revenge. Good thoughts, stay angry, stay focused on me, forget about. She forced herself to stand again. Her vision was blurring. Her body was failing. She did not know how much longer she could keep going, but she had to keep going. She had to give time. The next few minutes were a nightmare of pain and survival. The thornback attacked again and again, dodged and ran and ducked and rolled. She led it through the thickest parts of the jungle, where the vines and branches slowed it down. She used rocks and logs as shields. She used mud to make the ground slippery under its feet. Every time it hit her, she got back up. Every time it knocked her down, she stood again. Her body was breaking piece by piece, but her will refused to break. She found a sharp rock on the ground, jagged and heavy. She held it in her good hand. It was not a weapon, it was nothing, but it was all she had. The thornback cornered her against a cliff wall. There was nowhere left to run. The creature walked toward her slowly now, savoring the moment. It knew she was finished. It could see her broken body, her bleeding wounds, her exhausted muscles. Raised her rock. She positioned herself in front of the path that led back to. Even now, even at the end, she stood between the monster and the boy. The creature made that laughing sound again. This soft human was still trying to fight. How amusing, how pointless. Then they both heard it, the sound of engines in the sky. A rescue shuttle burst through the clouds above the clearing. Its searchlights swept across the jungle. Its heavy cannons turned toward the thornback. had activated the beacon. Help had come. The shuttle opened fire. Real weapons. Military weapons. The kind of weapons that could actually hurt a thornback. The creature roared as the first shots hit it. It turned toward this new threat, forgetting about for a moment. The cannons fired again and again. The thornback staggered. Its bone plates cracked. Its blood sprayed across the ground. Finally, with one last scream, the monster fell. It crashed to the earth and did not move again. Stood there for 3 more seconds. She looked at the dead creature. She looked at the shuttle landing nearby. She looked at the soldiers running toward her with medical equipment. Then her legs gave out. Her vision went dark. Her body finally stopped fighting. She collapsed onto the ground, and the world disappeared. The last thing she heard was someone shouting her name. Opened her eyes slowly. Everything was white. White ceiling, white walls, white sheets on the bed where she was lying. For a moment she thought she was dead. This must be what death looked like, empty and white and quiet. Then the pain hit her, and she knew she was alive. Dead people did not feel pain like this. Her whole body hurt. Her chest hurt when she breathed. Her arm hurt when she tried to move it. Her head hurt when she turned it even slightly. She was wrapped in bandages and connected to machines that beeped softly beside her bed. She was in the medical wing of the academy. She recognized the room. She had been here before, after training accidents, but she had never been hurt this badly. She had never been wrapped in so many bandages. She had never heard so many machines beeping around her. How long had she been unconscious? What had happened after she collapsed? She tried to sit up. Her body refused. The pain was too much. She fell back onto the pillow and closed her eyes. You should not try to move. The voice came from beside her, turned her head slowly and saw a figure standing near her bed. He was a tall being with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. He wore the uniform of a medical officer. I am doctor, he said. His voice was gentle and calm. I have been taking care of you. You have been unconscious for 4 days. 4 days. Tried to process that information. 4 days of sleeping while the world continued without her. She whispered. Her voice was rough and weak. The cadet is he. Cadet is fine, doctor said quickly. Minor injuries. He was treated and released on the first day. He has been here every day since then, waiting for you to wake up. He is in the corridor right now. Relief washed over like a wave. Was okay. The boy was alive. Everything she had done, everything she had suffered, it was worth it. He was alive. She tried to smile, but even that hurt. Your injuries are serious, doctor continued. He picked up and looked at it. 17 broken bones, internal bleeding in 3 places, severe damage to your muscles and organs. You required 3 surgeries. Honestly, Lieutenant Park, you should be dead. Any medical textbook would say you should not have survived, but here you are. Humans are stubborn, whispered. Doctor made a sound that might have been a laugh. Yes, I am beginning to understand that. Turned her head toward the door. Through the small window she could see the corridor outside, and what she saw made no sense. There were guards at her door. 2 warriors standing tall and straight, their scales painted with markings she did not recognize. They were not moving. They were not talking. They were just standing there like statues. Why are there guards at my door? She asked. They are not guards, doctor said. His voice was strange, full of something could not identify. They are an honor escort. I do not understand. Doctor set down his and looked at her. His large, dark eyes were serious. Lieutenant Park, the Academy has reviewed all the footage from 7. The emergency drones recorded everything. We saw what happened in that clearing. We saw what you did. Did not say anything. She was not sure what to say. You fought a thornback, doctor said slowly. A thornback, one of the most dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. You had no weapons, you had no armor. You had nothing but a knife that broke in the first minute, and you fought it for 11 minutes. I did not have a choice. That is exactly what makes it remarkable. Doctor leaned closer. You did have a choice. You could have run. Any rational being would have run. The Thornback was not interested in you at first. It wanted the cadet. If you had run, you might have survived. You chose to stay. He was just a kid, said. I could not leave him. Doctor stared at her for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was very quiet. I have worked in this medical wing for 20 years. I have treated soldiers from a dozen species. I have seen courage and I have seen cowardice. But I have never seen anything like what you did, Lieutenant Park. No one has. He walked to the window and looked out at the corridor. The honor escort was Commander's idea. She wanted to show respect, but others asked to join, many others. They have been standing out there in shifts since you arrived. Species that, he paused, species that have never shown much respect for humans before. Looked through the window again. Now she could see more clearly. The corridor was full of people, not just the two guards at her door, but dozens of others. They were standing along the walls, sitting on benches, waiting. Some of them wore cadet uniforms. Some wore officer uniforms. Some were species she had never met. They were all waiting for her. Why, she asked. Doctor turned back to her, and for the first time since she had known him, he smiled. Because you taught them something, he said. You taught them that strength is not about scales or size or weapons. Sometimes strength is just a woman who refuses to run away. Closed her eyes. She did not know what to say. She did not know what to feel. She had only done what seemed right. She had only tried to save a scared boy who reminded her of her brother. She had not tried to be a hero. She had just tried to be human. Through the window she could see pushing through the crowd. His face was wet with tears. He was trying to get to her door. The guards let him pass. Smiled, and this time the pain did not matter. The door opened and ran in. Stood beside's bed, crying so hard he could barely speak. He kept trying to say something, but the words kept breaking into sobs. His hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. I am sorry, he finally managed to say. I am so sorry. This is my fault. If I had not gotten lost, if I had not been so weak, you would not be hurt. You almost died because of me. I am so sorry. Reached out with her good hand and took his. Stop, she said softly. Stop apologizing. You did nothing wrong. But you. I made a choice, my choice, not yours. She squeezed his hand gently. And you activated the beacon. You saved us both. If you had not done that, the shuttle would not have come. We would both be dead. You were brave. Shook his head. I was not brave. I was scared. I was so scared I could not even move. Being brave does not mean you are not scared, said. Being brave means you do what needs to be done even when you are scared. You did that. You were brave. Looked at her with red, swollen eyes. Then he nodded slowly. He did not believe her, not completely, but maybe someday he would. Over the next few days, the news of what had happened spread beyond the academy. First it reached the fleet. Then it reached the coalition government. Then it reached planets across the galaxy. The footage from the emergency drones was analyzed by military experts on a dozen worlds. They could not explain it. The human should not have survived the first 30 seconds, one general said in a recorded briefing. Our combat simulations show that an unarmored human has zero chance against a Thornback. Zero. The creature outweighs a human by a factor of 10. Its claws can cut through military-grade metal. Its reflexes are faster than most species can track. By every measure we use, Lieutenant Park should have died immediately. But she did not die, another officer said. She fought for 11 minutes. She damaged the creature's eye. She survived long enough for rescue to arrive. How, the general asked. How is that possible? No one had an answer. The footage was shared across military networks. Soldiers of every species watched it. They watched throw herself at a monster that should have killed her instantly. They watched her dodge and roll and run and fight with nothing but her bare hands and her broken knife. They watched her get knocked down again and again. They watched her get back up every time. At first, some of them laughed. Silly human, fighting a thornback with a rock. What did she think she was doing? But as they watched more, the laughter stopped, because they started to realize something that changed how they saw humans forever. She knew she could not win. She had to know. No one could be that stupid. She knew the creature was going to kill her. She fought anyway. Not because she thought she could win, but because a boy was going to die if she did not try. That was not stupidity. That was something else. Something the other species did not have a word for. Commander came to visit in the medical wing on the 5th day. The commander was the highest-ranking officer at the academy, a legendary warrior who had conquered star systems. Her scales were marked with hundreds of honor symbols, one for each great victory of her life. She walked into the room and did something that made everyone stop breathing. She knelt beside bed. In culture, kneeling before someone was the highest possible sign of respect. Warriors only knelt before those they considered greater than themselves. Commander had never knelt before anyone at the academy, not once in 30 years. "Lieutenant Park," the commander said. Her voice was formal and solemn. "I have fought in many battles. I have seen courage in many forms. I have watched soldiers with the finest weapons and the strongest armor face their enemies. But I have never seen anything like what you did on 7. "Commander, please stand up," said. She was embarrassed. She did not deserve this. "I only did what anyone would do." "No," Commander's voice was firm. "That is precisely what makes your kind so remarkable. You believe that. You genuinely believe any human would do the same thing. Stand alone against a monster to save a stranger. Fight until their body breaks to protect someone weak." She paused and looked at with her ancient eyes. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps any human would do this. And that, Lieutenant Park, is why I think the galaxy has badly underestimated your species." Outside the window, could see the crowd had grown even larger. Cadets, officers, soldiers, beings from worlds she had never visited, species she had never met. Word had spread that the human was awake. Word had spread that Commander was kneeling at her bedside. "I am not special," said quietly. "I am just human." Commander stood up slowly. "Yes," she said, "you are, and we are only now beginning to understand what that means." In the days that followed, something changed at the academy. Humans were no longer ignored in the corridors. They were no longer mocked in the training yards. When they walked past, other species nodded at them. When they spoke, others listened. It was not just about. It was about what she represented. If one small human woman could stand against a thornback with nothing but her fists, what else could humans do? What other impossible things were they capable of? The galaxy had thought it understood humans, soft, fragile, weak, a young species that had stumbled into the stars by accident. Now they were learning the truth. Humans did not fight because they were strong. They did not fight because they thought they could win. They fought because something inside them would not let them stop, something that made them stand up when they should stay down, something that made them protect others even when it meant their own death. It was not their bodies that made humans dangerous. It was their hearts. Recovered slowly. Her bones healed. Her wounds closed. One day she was finally allowed to leave the medical wing. She walked out into the corridor, still wearing bandages on her arm, still moving carefully because everything still hurt. Was waiting for her. He smiled when he saw her, a real smile, not the nervous smiles he used to give. "Lieutenant Park," he said, "are you ready?" "Ready for what?" "To show them what humans can do." Looked down the corridor. She could see other humans there, cadets, officers, people she had never met. They were all watching her. They were all waiting. She thought about her brother back on Earth. She thought about what he had said to her before she left. Show them what humans can do. She smiled and started walking. She was still small, she was still soft, she was still breakable, but she was human. And now the galaxy knew what that meant. The stars would never look at humanity the same way again.